And so I wanted to share that with you before I talk about impacting yourself, because we're very excited. I'm very excited to be here. And here's the last thing that I want you to know is that we need you. Not only do you have great talent and you're a competitive advantage, but we need you so that we can continue to do the work that we need to do in the 21st century. We have jobs that right now we can't fill, and we need your expertise. And so I want to share that with you just from an employer for a second, to just let you know just how bad you are and that we need you in our companies. And if you're not going to come to corporate America, you don't have to. Start your own business, because we need you in this world. We need the difference that you were born to make. So let's talk about impacting yourself. I'm used to walking, so if I'm going to try to walk, and if I can't, then I'm going to come back. So here's the thing. Impacting yourself, you know, if you're on a plane, I travel quite a bit. And the first thing that they tell me on the plane, no matter where I'm going, no matter what I'm planning to do, is to put my what? Seatbelt on first. You know, that mask that might come down that we hope never comes down, the oxygen mask. Put that on me first, and then someone else. So today, while we're here at the Unconference and going forward, you can't do anything, you can't impact anybody else, you can't make a change unless you first impact yourself. And so I want to talk about this. This is my BARB list. It's a list that is global, around the world. I work with women all across the globe. I work with women that are in some of the countries that you have actually served in around the globe. And I started this BARB list because people have asked me, Barb, so what do you do? How do you do what you do? And I wanted to share some of the principles for success, for an amazing life. And here's the thing, you don't have to do them all. If you just pick one, it will vastly change your life. So here's my story. I was mentoring tech women. I'm a tech women mentor, so there's women around the globe, out of the Middle East, out of sub-Saharan Africa. And I had a protege, and I talked about the BARB list, and someone said, you're amazing. And I said, yes, I am. Because guess what? As women, we don't own our stuff. We own the other stuff, you know, what we haven't done, but we don't own our own truth. And the truth is we are all amazing. And so I gave this talk, and my protege said, I love the list. Why don't we do this list? Let's work together, because she's new in the country, never been to the U.S. before. She's getting ready to go into a tech company. You guys all heard about all the diversity that we have in our tech companies, isn't that right? So she's coming into a tech company, and guess what? She's like, I've never been into this company here in the United States, so what do I need to know? What's the unspoken? What do you wish someone would tell me? And I said, well, here's a couple of things I want to share with you. And she said, why don't we just do the BARB list together, and let's just make that our mentoring relationship while we're here. We're here together 6 weeks, and so that's what we did, some of the principles there. But let me tell you, it gets better. So we're doing the principles, and there are 700 women in this Tech Women Consortium, and we're doing the BARB list. And so I'm actually at a veterans event on Wall Street, and I get a call that says, the second lady of the United States, Jill Biden, is going to host an event for tech women, Dr. Jill. And thank you. And so they say, and we want you and your protege to speak. 700 women, they choose two. They choose us. And we have been practicing the BARB list. And we got up in front of everyone, including Dr. Jill, to talk about our experience. So I'm not telling you something that doesn't work, and I'm not telling you that I've already arrived, but these are principles that I have in front of me that I commit to every day. So I want to talk about relationships matter. So if you're sitting at a table and you know everybody at the table, great. But after this, don't sit at a table where you know everybody. Because relationships matter. Let me tell you how they matter. if I have an opportunity for Hannah, and an opportunity comes across my desk, or if someone calls me on the phone like Melissa, right, and says, Barb, I need someone, then I'm going to go to my relationships. And because I know Hannah, I'm going to call Hannah. And so what's important is that networking, yes, but you want to begin to build a relationship, because it doesn't matter who you know. What matters is who knows you. Because this is how we make connections. This is how we get jobs. This is how our businesses thrive. And so if we're only hanging around individuals who know us, then we've limited ourselves. So this is an unconference. Get uncomfortable and start sitting with people who you don't know. And the thing is, I do virtual coffee because I'm all over the place. And so when people come and they ask me, can I mentor them? Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. But you know what? For 15 minutes, I can do virtual coffee. So if you go up and just ask someone, look, I'd like to not only exchange business cards with you or email addresses or get LinkedIn, I just want to do virtual coffee for 15 minutes. Who doesn't have time for virtual coffee for 15 minutes? I don't even have to buy you coffee. You could just have your coffee, and I have mine, and we Skype, talk, whatever we're going to do, and we begin to build connections. Because we as women, we might have a vast of friends or a vast of people that we know, but we don't have the deeper relationships. And so these relationships matter. They matter because when I'm offered positions, I'm not applying. I don't apply to positions. People go out because of my relationships, and people who know me, that's how we stay connected. The other is ask for help. Now this is a big one. So I run veteran programs as well, and I have an internship program, and the biggest thing that I see is not asking for help. So I want to tell you, first of all, asking for help is a sign of strength. It is not a sign of weakness, and your vision and my vision is too big for me to do on my own. My vision is to unlock the untapped brilliance in all of us. Now, do you think Barbara Williams can do that? I'm in California, in Sacramento today, and I've talked about the Barb list being a global. You think I could do that on my own? There's no way. So ask for help, because the fact is, if I know that you have a need and I have connections to that need, then I can help you. And our parents sort of told us a closed mouth does not get fed. So don't go it alone, because your vision is way too big. And we are there. By one person, me, I'm strong. But you know what? With all of you, I'm invincible. I rock. We rock. So please don't go it alone. The next is feel the fear. Do it anyway. You're going to feel afraid. I feel afraid all the time. People ask me, how do you get up and talk and just walk? Are you like fearless or what's going on? I'm like, no, I get nervous, but you got to keep going. Because here's the thing about fear. If you've never done anything before, you're going to feel it, and it's not just us women. Men feel it too. But the thing about it, I'm not talking about security and dark nights and things like that. But you know, that anxiousness that can come. You're not by yourself. You're not alone. If somebody tells you they don't feel it, I just want to really question what they're doing. They're too safe for me. Because here's the thing, if you've never done anything before, the first time you're going to feel fear. You remember learn how to drive a car? I used to do the bike, but the car, because now, you know, the car is a big thing for a couple of my friends. And I said, you know, are there times when you've actually gotten home and you think, how did I even get here? I don't even remember, because we've driven so long and done this so many times, then we've forgotten. But if you think about those drivers, then when you see, you know, student driver first time and what's going on there, it sort of brings it back how afraid you were. Well, I actually had a doctor tell me that in our brains, the reason why we feel fear is because our brains have pathways. And so if we've been doing things several times, we have a pathway, so you have memory. And the thing about that is that if you've never done something before, your brain has no path. And that's the reason why, one of the reasons why we have that anxiousness, but the more you do it, the more it becomes rote. So do not allow fear to stop you from your dream. Do not allow fear to stop you from your destiny, because it's just a part. And so when you feel it, keep moving. Keep doing it. The next is be curious. You know, I ask questions all the time. And if we're not curious, then I'll tell you, we will miss a lot of life. So how does this really work? And tell me a little bit more about this. You know, and I ask questions because that's one of the ways that sets me apart. You know, you have a speaker up there and go, wow, she's doing all this great stuff. And then they ask for Q&A and nobody comes up. But this is how you can set yourself apart, is by that curiosity. Is always willing to learn, to seek out something new. I'm not saying you're going to agree with everything, but understanding. Can you tell me a little bit more about why you think like that? Or I have a question. And the other is have fun. We can still be serious and do all this work and have a great time. So make time for fun, because you know what? I found that if I don't make some time for fun, I'll just be going check, 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 check. What's next? What's next? Check, check. Okay, good. But life is about having fun. And so make sure that you're including fun. Next, I love this one, is don't wait to be introduced. So sometimes as women, we'll wait. You know what? I haven't met Lindsay before, and I see you sitting with her. Can you introduce me to Lindsay?
Sure.
Okay. But see, now I have to get someone's permission. Here's the thing. Lindsay, and I happen to know Lindsay. You know, whether it's Lindsay or me or anyone else, CEO, regardless of title, we're all human. And the thing is, most of us, we're sitting by ourselves, and no one is connecting with us because they're allowing the title to be the barrier. And so please do not allow the title to be the barrier. So here's my story. So this don't wait to be introduced. So again, I'm hosting a veteran networking event, and I have one of my people, and I'm talking to them. They're a veteran, and our CIO is there, and I say, hey, have you met Mark? Go on over there and go talk to Mark. And they look at me, and they look at Mark, and you know, I'm just going over, because I'm the connector, right? Hey, okay, now do you know so-and-so? Go over here and talk to this person. And I go back, and I'm like, well, what? What's going on here? Mark, this is the CIO. You need to go talk to this guy. And they say, you know what, Barb? In the military, I would never walk up to someone who almost has the rank of general or admiral. And I was like, wow, that was my aha. And this is why I talk about it. You're right, it was protocol. Well, you know, in corporations, there's no no. If the CEO walks in the room, Larry Ellison walks in the room, right? I can introduce myself to Larry Ellison. I work with our two CEOs. I cannot allow, and I'm not going to allow, and please do not allow the fact that there's a title or anything to stop you from connecting with someone, whether they're an author. We're going to have some fabulous people here for the next couple of days. Do not wait. This is your moment. Stand apart. And don't wait to be introduced, not only now, but going forward. The other is act as if, you know, we don't all have it all together, but as women, we'll downplay all of our skills, and we'll wait. Well, when I have the resume at all of the job description that they say, then I'm going to apply. No way, men don't do that. They can't do half of the stuff that's on our job descriptions, but we as women are like, well, you know, when I get to like 90%, then I'm going to take the job. Or when your leader says, you know what, Graciela, here's what I want you to do. I already know you wrote these books about Captain Mama, and I want you to come over here, and I want you to speak at one of my events that's open to all of our customers. And then Graciela goes, well, now I spoke at the Unconference, and I spoke at this. But you have how many people? About 70,000 people coming to your event? I don't think I could do that. That's too many. Right? I've never done that before. No, and I know Graciela, so I know she wouldn't turn me down. But here's the thing. You just act as if. On the job interview. Going back to acting as if. You know, and we do a good job at this in other ways. But then when it comes to perhaps our job or our business, I'm not going to know all the answers. It's okay. I don't have to know all the answers. I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to be in control. I don't have to have it all together. I just need to act as if. And one of the ways that we do this, we talk about the Superman pose. So you'll see us out there doing this Superman pose so I can get all my strength. And I'm going to act as if. That's why I use Wonder Woman. Because then, these others are talking about these others. And I'm like, no, Wonder Woman. That's who I am, right? But the key to it is, do not allow the fact that you don't have it all together to not move forward. And then create your own opportunities. If you're waiting for that dream job, the dream job comes when you create it. So we're waiting on you to create your own opportunity. And you're here today to be able to do that. And then last but not least, life is going to begin outside of your comfort zone. It's waiting for you. But now you have to be willing to be uncomfortable, to get out of your comfort zone. If you've been doing it and there's no joy in this anymore, that's how you know you need to move forward. If you're the go-to person, like I have been a go-to person, now I'm doing new things. As a go-to person, it means now I need to do something else and I need to expand. But your life is waiting for you outside of your comfort zone. So thank you very much. Please connect with me if you want to learn more about the Barb List. I'm on Twitter at BAW Connects. To learn about Oracle, we're going to have an exhibitor table out, and we're in Oak Club patio, right outside. So thank you. So I am excited to do this, to make this introduction, because here is a young woman who is a delight. I walked in the room and she said, "Hi, how are you? What's going on?" This is, and it's my pleasure and honor to introduce Sergeant Lolly. So Sergeant Lolly is one of 8 WACs during World War II, trained as a high-speed radio operator for transporting war equipment, supplies, and personnel around the U.S. in C-47 planes. So this freed up some of the men radio operators going overseas in the war effort. Her group also provided practice for men radio operators going overseas. She is healthy and happy at the grand age of 94 years. And that's not all. She drives her convertible Miata. Here's a woman, here's a legacy, one that I want to definitely honor, Sergeant Lolly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, veterans and guests. All of you, you're looking good. I came to tell you about my experiences as a female sergeant in the U.S. military and about what happened to me. My story, that was in the 1940s, the 1940s. If your math is good, that's 70 years ago. My story starts here. As the oldest in a family of 5, there was not much thought of further schooling. So after graduation, I got a job in the local drugstore in my hometown. Soon, as the war was heating up in Europe, I went to work in a very large steel mill on Lake Michigan in Indiana, making armaments. Along came December 7th, Pearl Harbor. We were in it now, the war. It may surprise some of you to know, as it did me back then, that in the 1940s, women had to be 21 years old to join the military. It was the law. Now, Molly Pitcher, at 16 years old, fought side by side with her husband during the Revolution. But now it's the law in the United States. So when I turned 21 years old, I enlisted at $21 a month. My dad was shocked when I told him. Yep. His firstborn off to war. But he was very supportive. As veterans, you know, the first place you go after the swearing in is basic training. And I'm on my way now to Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia. Basic training, learning the Army way. Marching, marching, marching. Sounds like you remember that. Who to salute? What? Yes, how to salute and then who to salute. Now, do you remember your first KP duty? It's 4 a.m. and all need, the big, huge cooking pots need washed first. And then you wash the tables and benches. And then you wash the floor. And I remember telling my mom way back then, and that's a long time ago, that when everything was washed, they made us take the coal out of the coal bin and wash it out and put the coal back. Now that's teaching you how to follow orders. We were learning how to make a double-decker bunk bed with the bedclothes so tight that the inspecting officer could drop a quarter on it and it would bounce. If it didn't bounce, he would rip it all up and say, "Do over." Here's another thing you must learn for the ladies: how to sit down gracefully in a mess hall for 3 meals a day at a 20-foot-long wooden table with a very, very tight skirt on. After that, your first stop is supply. You go to supply, you're issued a shirt, a tie, jacket, skirt, shoes, 5 pairs of beige-colored stockings, and 7 or 8 pair of underwear. Well, guess what? They were ugly army olive green color. And they were bloomers. After a month-long basic training was completing, testing was done next to determine where each recruit would fit in. I showed an aptitude for radio school. So next, I was sent to the Army's Midland Radio and Television School in Kansas City, Missouri. We were billeted in an old 5-story residence hotel, 2 double bunks to a small room. Fall out in the morning, 7 a.m., in the street. Yep. March to the mess hall, and then to the classrooms for 8 hours a day. Constant international Morse code, radio theory, and radio repair. 8 hours a day. Then months later, we graduated, some of us, and we were high-speed radio operators. From radio school in Kansas City, I was transferred by troop train to a very large staging area in California to be reassigned. It was far, far out in the desert at March Field. Some here may remember March Field, which much, much later became the famous Edwards Air Force Base, and what they did there and what they do there. landing the shuttles from outer space. Now for me, two things happened in just 2 days. First was gas mask drill. 3 a.m. The sergeants come running through the barracks. Wake up, gas mask drill. So you put on the gas mask, which is attached to the railing at the bottom of your bunk bed. Then you fall out into formation in the street to be led through a small tent filled with white smoke, lots of white smoke. Is it gas? We never knew. Number two, early the next morning, we fall out, then into canvas-covered army trucks, sitting cheek to cheek on long wooden bench seats for a long 59 miles in a jerky truck. You'll never guess where they took us. The Hollywood Canteen. It was in an old, gigantic armory. We were each given 3 tickets, 1 to get in the door, and 2 for cookies and coffee. And then they shouted, "These trucks leave in exactly 1 hour and 45 minutes. Be here." That's all the time that they gave us. Inside the armory, the band was playing, soldiers were dancing with local women, and serving the cookies and coffee were the movie stars. I saw one, but I don't remember who it was or what. Now came our permanent assignment to Peterson Field, Colorado Springs, Colorado, to join a new unit being formed, the 204th Army Air Force Base Unit. Now, it was a military airline within the Air Force. The other 3 crew members on each airplane were males, each having completed their tour of duty, that's 30 missions, overseas. They were a pilot, a co-pilot, and most pilots were former 4-engine bomber pilots. And the 3rd member was the crew chief engineer. And we were the 4th member of each crew, WAC radio operators. We were high-speed operators. This is where they took us. There were at this time no radio operators available who had completed their 30 missions overseas. So 8 of us were assigned to the 204th at headquarters, 2nd Air Force, Colorado Springs, Colorado. Our airplanes were DC-3s, sometimes known as C-47. President Franklin Roosevelt had ordered an amazing 10,000 DC-3s for wartime duties of all kinds. The DC-3s were very well known for the miraculous evacuation by air of the thousands of British troops who were cornered by the Germans at Dunkirk. The DC-3s were well known also for dropping many hundreds of parachutists to outflank Germany's west wall. The DC-3s later became famous for dropping from the sky weekly treats to the nearly starving British children who were blockaded by the Germans in London. So we went to work in the vast center of our country, a fleet of DC-3s delivering war supplies and equipment and personnel, airplane parts, or whatever was needed. If a massive B-17 or B-24 bomber was grounded somewhere because of a needed part or a specially trained mechanic, we delivered. To and between all 41 stations of the 2nd Air Force in the midsection of America, from Salt Lake City, Utah to Topeka, Kansas, from Albuquerque, New Mexico to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I did have a map. We also had special trips. My crew took Tommy Dorsey's band in New York City to entertain soldiers returning from overseas duty. We also, at another time, took the 2nd Air Force football team, which included the then famous Crazy Legs Hirsch. We took them to Salt Lake City, Utah, to play for many, many soldiers. Now, we did these things in a fleet of DC-3 aircraft. They were prop-driven, 2-engine airplanes whose top speed was 155 miles an hour. Jets came much, much later. Our planes could hold 21 soldiers or many, many tons of cargo. They had a wingspan of 95 feet, and they were 65 feet nose to tail. The DC-3 has a regal nose-high position. They sit at an angle when on the ground. I'm told that a few of them are still out there flying in remote Alaska and other places, needing smoke jumpers, fire retardant, or crop dusting. General Dwight D. Eisenhower, the 4th President of the United States, was quoted as listing the DC-3 among the 4 weapons most responsible for victory in World War II, along with the Jeep, the bazooka, the atom bomb, and the DC-3. Over time, we flew 3 million miles without a single accident. So here is my story. We were the very first United Parcel Service, the UPS. We were the United States War Equipment Parcel Service, but we did it in airplanes. I like to think of it that way. I was told that I should say a little bit about my life before military days. I met Kenneth, the love of my life, while we were stationed at Colorado Springs. After the military was demobilized, we married. We had 5 healthy children who grew up and moved on. In his mid-60s, emphysema took Ken because he couldn't quit smoking. I tried quilting. I'm not too good at it. Bike riding and golf, kind of despair. Then with different groups, I went on trips to Europe, Spain, Portugal, Morocco, Greece, staying in youth hostels, YWCAs, and elder hostel. Oh yes, then daughter Susan won a free trip for 2 to Hong Kong, China, and guess who she took? Me. Then my sister retired after 40 years' work. She went out and bought a motorhome, and she said to me, "Let's go." Well, we took off, towing a little old red convertible behind the RV. We traveled for 18 years, my sister-in-law, camping 6 months each year, just the 2 of us, all around the USA about 4 times, stopping sometimes to visit the other WAC radio operators, the other 7 in their hometown. This is our first year without the RV. Did I say that I'm a pretty healthy 94-year-old? And my doctor, when I go, always says to me 2 words: keep moving. Now, as I close, I would like to introduce you to 2 of the very important people in my life. First, my sister Chance, my traveling companion for these 18 years. And next, my daughter Susan, who has her own business here, Win Tuition, and who got me into all this. Over there. Oh, my daughter Kelly and my granddaughter Haley are also here. Wasn't it nice for them to come and support me? Yes. So I thank you all for being here, ladies of the Women's Veterans Alliance. I'm a proud member. Thank you. This is I joined when it was the Women's Army Auxiliary Corps. I was in 7 months before we turned over to the WAC, the WAC. So this goes back to early 1942. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sergeant Holly. Thank you. You're a gem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think so.
Do the hug again. Do the hug.
Oh. Hug Melissa again. Here.
Oh, she wants a hug. I want a hug.
Face forward. Yeah, let's do it with your face.
All right. She'll be here she's going to stay for lunch. So if you want to talk to Sergeant Lawley at lunch, she'll be here at lunch. All right. So great story how this connection happened. I love sharing how it's all about relationships, as Barb was talking about earlier, and how we meet people and network, and we find, and actually I've known Susan for a while. I didn't know about her mom until last year I was, if anybody's familiar with NABO, it's a National Association of Women Business Owners, and I was nominated for the Visionary Award. But just so happens I had a speaking engagement in New Orleans, so I wasn't able to attend. So I asked Helen Justice, my friend, Air Force veteran who I've known for a long time, to be my step-in, my replacement while there. So it just so happens, and I did win. I won the Visionary Award for Women Veterans Alliance. And so Helen was sitting next to Susan there at the dinner. And they got to talking, and then Susan was telling her about her mom, and then Helen shared that, and I'm like, oh, she has to be a speaker at the Unconference. She has to be. When I heard her story and saw her photos, amazing. Thank you so much. You've paved the way for all these young ladies here, so thank you so much. So I'm going to introduce our next speaker, Sergeant Stephanie Shannon, who I came across some art. I was reading an article, I don't know whether on Facebook or the internet, and it was sharing this story about this awesome woman in Michigan and all the different initiatives that she was doing there for women veterans. And I was reading her story, and she's an author, and she's going to tell you all about that stuff. And I reached out to her and we started talking again. Relationships is all on the phone, on Facebook, email, and we were talking. She was sharing her story. Said, Stephanie, you got to come out here and you got to speak to these women, because the story she's going to share is, I know, is going to touch a lot of you, hopefully inspire you. And another thing too is I joined the military 25 years ago during Gulf War time. And a lot of times we forget that women served during the Gulf War. And there's a lot of things that happen that we forget about. A lot of times we focus on OEF, OIF, OND. And Stephanie's going to talk a lot about what happened to her, also focus on Gulf War illness, which we need to make sure that we have awareness about. Of course, also PTSD and military sexual trauma. So Stephanie, she Army veteran, served her country 8 years, 1990, and she was out there in the Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Persian Gulf War I, and author of the #1 best-selling Battling the Storm Within. It's a war memoir that details how she lived 20 years undiagnosed with PTSD, MST, and Gulf War illness. So 20 years, and she's going to talk about her story. Also, too, she has her table out here. So after, she's got books for sale, and you can also, set up some time. But she flew out here yesterday, a 3-leg flight from Michigan, to come here to talk to you ladies. So, everybody, Sergeant Stephanie Shannon.
I'm honored to be standing before you. You really touched me, Sergeant Lolly. I'd like to be like you when I grow up. You are so cute and jazzy. I mean, she is sharp. You got to talk to her. She has a powerful energy. And Melissa, she touched me. You know, just someone reaching out to you after you've been through so much. As women veterans, often what happens is, and I'll share, where do I start? A victim no more, from trauma to triumph. A lot of times, and I am Stephanie Shannon, and I'm the founder CEO of Michigan Women Veterans Empowerment. I'm an author, speaker, and veteran advocate, and I wasn't that. Over 2 or 3 years ago, I just came into this. So my life experience brought me to this platform. It's kind of blurry there. That first slide there, you see me, I was only 20 years old. I wanted to be all I could be. Those commercials were powerful. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna travel the world and they're gonna pay for it. You know how it is. And then I was thinking about it. I was in school. I had an associate's degree in fashion merchandising. And I was like, I wanna do something different. I wanna travel the world on Uncle Sam's bill. And I did. I joined the military. And shortly after, my experience was right after I came out of basic at Fort Dix, New Jersey. I ended up in Desert Storm 5 months later. A lot of times we go to basic training and you have your drill sergeants telling you, oh, you're gonna do this and this and that. I was like, it can be a war, it hasn't been war since then, whatever. I laughed all the time. I got in trouble because I laughed too much. But it was an interesting experience. I ended up in Desert Storm 5 months later. So my life changed dramatically. I didn't know at that time. A lot of times what happens when you join the military, you just get the black and white, you get what the recruiters tell you, but the gray areas is a whole nother thing. I had no idea of that. Women veterans were not a prominent force. Women in the military, still, even with your time, but our time in Desert Storm, that's 1990, 1991, there was not a lot of women in the military. So my particular unit, we had 15 women, it was like 150 men, and that's pretty good at that time. I remember I was too young to be afraid and too immature to realize the gravity of the situation. You know, when I was activated 5 months later and I drove 14-ton tractor trailers, I was like, you want me to drive that? Are you serious? I couldn't believe when I came to train as an 88 Mike transportation specialist, I thought I was gonna be able to pick my vehicle or my unit. Psych. Oh, yes. I was like, really? Are you serious? I served in Damanport. That's where our station was, and we traveled. We drove over millions of miles to Bahrain, to Qatar, to Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia. We was on the road at all times. And at that time back then, that's when they did not have washing machines. Anybody that served in the Desert Storm Gulf War, where you at? Oh, okay, there was someone, yeah. We had washing machines. We had to do everything by hand. The uniforms, everything was mail cut. The boots were horrible, had blisters all the time. And at that time, I really wasn't aware of what it was, but I was young. I was like, what could happen? I have no kids, never been married, travel the world, right? But that's not necessarily what happened to me at that time. During the Gulf War, I don't know if you know about it, there was Saddam Hussein, and he put out what they called Scud missiles. I don't know if you're aware of that. We're the first televised war. And at the time, I would get letters, and weeks later, and they would tell me all this stuff. Oh my God, we saw this and this and that. And I was like, no, that's not happening. And they would, kind of fabricate it. You know how Hollywood is with the military, make it seem like this is a real dynamic situation. I'm like, well, pretty much all we're doing is working in 110-degree weather, and when you're in a truck about 150 and 60 degrees at night. And we never got off the road. I kid you not, we're sleeping on flatbeds. They didn't have